What is happening, y'all? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. No matter where you're dialing in from, you know we're here for a good time. I'm excited for this one, y'all. This is Thumbstop Live happening every Monday to Friday from 11 a.m. ET to 1 p.m. ET. And it's live across multiple platforms. So we got us on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube Live. So we're a bunch of different places. Having a lot of fun with these so far. We've had some amazing guests, and today you're also in for a treat. So we have a couple killers in the space who I'm excited to bring up to the stage and be able to bless us with so much different information. But for those of you who aren't in the know, and as we start to get set up here, I wanted to let you all know how you can stay tapped in to what we have going on, okay? So what that means is for anybody who's interested, go ahead and I'll share my screen real quick and check us out at ThumbstopLive. So all the good stuff is happening. You can see my face there, but we are live every single Monday to Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. ET. And it's a good time where we're learning about all things creative strategy. Now, as more and more people roll in, this is presented by Motion. I'm not sure how many people are in the know with Motion, but check us out on socials. Our main goal here is to help you create winning ads. And a big way that you're going to make winning ads is by having the data that informs what you should do next. And Motion's a platform that makes that super easy for you to click buttons to go get that answer or work with the top experts in their AI agents to come up with those insights. So all of that starts making it come to life. But for today's show, I want to go ahead and bring our first guest to stage. This is a guy who I've known for, honestly, it's been a freaking minute at this point. I don't even know how much time it's been anymore. But I wanted to welcome London to the stage.
Let's go.
Hey.
I'm live.
I'm in London, got my beat from London. How's it going, man?
Good. I remember that postcard you sent me. That was that was way back in the day.
Man,
Good stuff.
people are going to be sad. It's like, why is Evan not sending me postcards? It's like, hit me in the DMs. I got you. But
I need some more motion merch too. Whenever you get a sec. I was gonna rock my tee.
We're cooking. We gotta come up with some cool stuff. And now that we have like multiple sub brands like the Thumbstop Live, I'm sure we can start to have fun with it in a bunch of different ways. Yeah, man. I want to say that was like, is that 2.5 years ago, 3 years at this point? Something crazy.
Dude, I don't even know. I mean, I've been at Hexclad for what, like 2.5 years, and I think I reached out to you or you reached out to me early. Huge fanatic of motion for the last 2.5 years. It's literally exploded our acceleration with creative for Hexclad. So
I love it, London.
Shout out. Yeah.
I love it, man. Shout outs. I am wondering though, we have a group of people here and also people who are going to tune into the recording. If we can, let's start off nice and easy. Quick, tell us about yourself. What are you most well known for? Honestly, anything, and we'll take it from there, man.
Yeah, absolutely. London Spilker, current role at Hexclad is director of paid media. Like I mentioned, I've been at Hexclad for about 2.5 years now. It's been a really long trip, but it's been absolutely awesome. I don't know if you can swear on this, but it's been fucking great. Really great time and pretty much learned from the best too. Connor, head of growth. I came into Hexclad, being in the agency space for about 4.5 years, and I didn't really, get to see that level of, hyper growth and acceleration. So it's been a really great ride, and have learned a ton with a killer team. So
I love it, man. And you were saying before Hexclad, because like you've had a journey at Hexclad, first of all, but before Hexclad, you mentioned 4.5 years agency side. Is that what you're up to?
Yeah. I mean, I got started back in high school. Actually, I saw some drop shipping ads. I think that's how half of the people in this industry start is on the thought of getting rich quick. There we go. So I lost about $10,000 trying to finagle my way through drop shipping. And then eventually found a mentor after graduating high school, and actually told the guy I was doing my senior project on digital marketing even after graduating. But it was a good way to break into the space. And then from there, found my second mentor on Fiverr, actually, and he had a pretty sizable deck of clients, and did not have the experience that was required for the role, but essentially just said, hey, I'll come in and work for free until I prove my value. And I think that has been like one of the biggest steps in my career, just because it's so hard to break into an industry unless you like find the right people. Like there's so many resources available online, but if unless you're, looking at the right things, it's easy to miss or teach yourselves the wrong strategies or tactics.
Man, I want to come back to the community stuff, but I am curious about like,
Yeah.
you gloss over it. It's like, yeah, I'm the director of paid media at Hexclad. I'd love if you can give people an insight into what your journey at Hexclad has been, the different roles, what you've been up to.
Definitely. Yeah, I started off as e-commerce manager, which is an interesting title. I don't think we ever got that one right, because e-commerce manager is actually kind of like more related to web dev or website than it is like kind of growth or advertising. So that's how I started, and that was back when we had a super small growth team. It was kind of me, Cam, and Connor, and then spearheading everything from retention to acquisition. And then from there, finally got, I think, the right title, which was growth manager. And my role didn't really change, less kind of retention focused as we scaled out, our internal org. We've made a lot of, super great hires, and, found some very talented people along the way. So my role has officially stayed in, acquisition and paid media over the last 2.5 years. So then from growth manager transferred to senior growth manager, just tossing a little SR in the front of that. And then finally made my way to director of paid media. So it's been a long road, but like I mentioned, it's been insane for my career. Like the amount I've learned over the last 2.5 years has been exceptional.
I talk a ton about hockey stick trajectory and growth, and like why I
Yeah.
wanted you to double click is because like you've been taken off, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, like it's
No,
being
100%.
so all of that is super inspirational for anyone who's tuning in. And something you had mentioned a couple times as you were going through the tell me about yourself was the role of like mentors in your life. Then you also spoke about like great people around you. So on your end, if you were to speak to like the younger folks who might be getting started in their careers, did you intentionally go out to find mentorship? Did you surround yourself in the communities where they existed? How did you build that really strong community around you?
Yeah, that's a tricky question. I mean, I was literally just thinking about this the other day. Like, this community is so amazing. The support like that we all show to everybody. If you're watching right now and trying to break into the industry, like reach out to me, reach out to anybody that you look up to in the space. Like, I remember reaching out to so many people, and a few of them did leave me on red, but a few of them did reach back out. And whether it was a super dumb question, I was reading back at some of my old DMs, like how much are you spending, or literally anything. Just reach out to someone. Like that's how I got my job at Hexclad. I just DM'd Connor on Twitter and said, hey, you want to set up like just a bi-weekly meeting, one marketer to another. And then we kind of hit it off, and he's like mentioned he was going brand side at Hexclad. And, after one call, I, jumped ship and never looked back. So yeah, I would say reach out and find a mentor sooner than later. You might have to do something like, working for zero until proving your value. I think that was literally the key point in my career. Because that actual agency had Dr. Squatch at the time and like a few other massive clients. And this was back in like 2018. But without that, going into that call, knowing I would work for free and kind of making that my pitch, I would have never, had that experience and opportunity. So just try to break in as hard as you can and talk to as many people as you can.
Shoot, man. Get that set
Yeah,
up. I had
exactly.
no idea that's how it happened.
Yeah, it was actually really funny because I still look back at that. We really only had one call, and then had our interview, which I completely botched too. I remember getting the time zones swapped up from Boise to Coeur d'Alene, and I was like an hour late, or not an hour late on the time. So I had 5 minutes left. I was at the gym, hustled home, out of breath, and then my computer crashed like halfway through. So I was like, okay, didn't get the job. And then I just see Connor reach out and with a job offer, and I was like, wow, can't
That's
believe
crazy.
I made it. But yeah, it's been a great 2.5 years, and really appreciate Connor if he's watching out there, because he's been a tremendous leader along the
Shout
way.
out to Connor, man. Shout out to
Shout
Connor.
out.
His
Yeah.
growth too has been absolutely insane.
Totally. Yeah, I kind of like started posting on Twitter because of Connor. Dropping some value bombs. And speaking of value bombs, I think maybe we can transition into that previous conversation we had about like creative and destination matching. I think that's super interesting topic, and it might not be the most important things for a brand at the 7 to 8 figure level, but it's something that everybody should be thinking about, is like, what destination would this specific creative like work the best with. And we have our we've tested into plenty of landing pages for cookware specifically, and we've kind of found our bread and butter, our top performing landing page format that works really well. Kind of a listicle style. So 5 reasons why every home cook needs Hexclad. And from there, we've done a lot of consumer and customer research over the last 3 years, and we've kind of nailed down our top 6 to 8 demos that encompass about 85 to 90% of our revenue. And recently, we've backtracked all of our creative in our creative testing calendar and kind of mapped out which demographic this specific asset falls into. And then we've duped out our landing page and slightly tweaked certain elements. So like within those 5 reasons, like we hit all of our core VPs, and keep it pretty broad. But then the second dupe, obviously that page performs well, so we're only slightly tweaking individual components like imagery, what VPs or USPs are highlighted first. So we have this carnivore demographic that we found through our post-purchase survey as our number one, or encompassed about I think 40% of what diet are you on. A lot of those people just don't have a diet in general, but the carnivore diet specifically, I don't know why my computer keeps doing this weird buggy thing, was the biggest one. So we started there, duped the page out, and on that page we talk about like searing power, perfect for steak, perfect for meat lovers, and we have really great like assets on that page that like zoom into the crust, that perfect like golden brown crust. And I'm a huge steak guy too, and honestly that page made me want to buy another 12-piece set on top of the current one I own. So but yeah, we're duping that out. We're actually testing that with Convert. Typically, like we're testing landing pages with just by launching in funnel for kind of net new swings. But when it's a smaller tweak like that, there's so much variance in ad creative where you're not going to get the truest readout. So despite only being last click, and taking a longer period of time to get to stat sig, that's going to be the best approach. So hopefully by the end of this year, we'll have data on all 6 of those split tests that I can drop in a mega value bomb thread on Twitter. Yeah.
I love it, man. Oh my gosh. This is so funny because it's like you've built up to this point of having the place where it's like, all right, got some data, have some learnings that we can share with a bunch of people. I do want to talk about the journey of making
Yeah.
that come to life. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And that's something like I think stepping into Hexclad and like having one landing page and not really like testing into any destinations in the past. I saw that, and that was a big focus of mine, and still is. Like everything that we're doing now is more like 1% focus, where 1% growth is going to be massive. Like we've kind of made those net new swings and gotten to that point where we're happy, and that 1% is still massive. But back in the day, like testing these massive swings, I think we've tested like 15 to 20 for cookware specifically. And granted, Hexclad is a higher AOV brand in general, so it's going to take a little bit longer to hit stat sig or results that we can action on. But in terms of funnels, so like we have our listicle landing page, which I just mentioned about creative matching, and that's kind of like the top of the top. And that landing page goes through all of our top VPs. and is kind of like the first central point where, touch point where someone enters into like the Hexclad funnel. And then from there, we have a few different destinations that people get hit with. The second one being like a more sets focused landing page where they can, select 3 different bundles. The first one being like our 12-piece set, hero product in general, but we also have like 2 other smaller options available for some of those lower AOV, or I mean smaller kitchen consumers is what we like to call it. And then even from there, we have our hybrid collection landing page. So it's still at the top, kind of highlights, some of our top VPs, highlights some social proof, and then really just digs into our collection page for cookware in general. So I that to me is like more middle bottom of funnel. And then like bottom of funnel, we have like our 12-piece statics that are more like offer focused, and those will still just redirect to our PDPs. So that's kind of like how our approach is to like our funnel and where people are at in the funnel. I've seen a ton of different brands do it a lot of different ways, but I think, core website elements like product pages and collection pages still carry so much weight. I forgot what I was reading the other day, but it's like, every brand doesn't need a landing page, and landing pages are so hyped. I still think every brand needs a landing page, but I think a lot of brands get so hyper focused on LPs that they forget about like PDPs and collection pages being a massive driver and pretty solid pages to drive traffic to.
Oh man, those are 3 really great ones. And then speaking to the funnel, I do want to go back to when it was like you, Cam,
Yeah.
Connor, lean and mean. None of this existed, or like a very light version of it.
Right.
Where the heck did you guys start?
Yeah, it was crazy. It was like the Wild West of ecom. I think we were wearing so many hats. It's like we were all construction workers juggling, 50 trillion different tasks. And that's when prioritization really was super important. It's doing that thing again. Just because there was a trillion things. So we really had to, meet every week and figure out like what is going to drive the biggest lift. And that list was endless. And I think another thing was like the low hanging fruit. Like some of these things like were just pretty generic. Like every marketer, knew to do this or that. So yeah, one of the projects we spearheaded, me and Connor specifically, was the 12-piece upsell funnel on email. We created a landing page and experience for that specifically. So essentially all single pan or single pot purchasers, anything within that 12-piece set, we sent them this email flow that essentially offered the 12-piece set minus for $6.99 minus that individual product that they purchased. Looking back, like the dev work and like the work that went into that page and experience was a lot, just because we had to make I think it was 12 individual variants, just because we have those actually 6 individual products, well, with a lid or without a lid. So it was a lot, but that was a really cool project. Like, and most of my experience is on the paid media front. I haven't really touched retention that much. So that was a really cool experience. And to kind of get in the weeds on that front in the early days of Hexclad. But yeah, those were, I feel like the glory days of Hexclad. Like we've grown to a massive team now. And I remember back in the day when it was literally just us 3 kind of waking up every day and conquering that next task. And it was really cool to see like the massive impact that we had. Like one new creative could literally, change everything. And we had so much opportunity in our hands. Whereas now it's like, we've built a ton of great infrastructure and we have this amazing team where, we're a little bit more focused on like that 1% lift,
Yeah.
which is still massive. But I think the days of like the low hanging fruit is over, which honestly I think is really, really cool because it makes you think. It's like, what is really going to drive the needle? So yeah, it's been crazy.
So it's you three starting with the upsell flow. I guess what I'm curious about is like, what are the steps that took you all to where you're at now? So it's like, did you
Yeah,
start with understanding your
definitely.
personas? Did you build a calendar out? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah. So we were working with a handful of different individual creative agencies at the time, and I think that was one of the big steps for me. Was, Connor was kind of leading into this head of growth role where, he wanted to build out this team, and that's where kind of me and Cam came in and, built the infrastructure for creative and paid media in general, and more specifically, Meta, just because that's where, most of our spend is. And starting at the top, it came with the creative testing calendar, which I still use every single day. I think that's what every brand needs to use. And if you haven't seen that and you're listening right now, go check out the post on my Twitter. It went kind of viral, and that's honestly one of the reasons I started posting on Twitter is seeing that growth. But
I feel
yeah,
like
we
we got to
use
bring
that
that one up. I feel like we got to bring that one up now. You can talk through it a
100%.
little.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
can come back.
absolutely. Yeah, do you want to actually pop open that first picture on the left there? So this is kind of the version that Connor had crafted, and at a high level, just being able to track all of our different creative agencies, and making sure we were launching creative at a frequency that fit our internal needs. Like Hexclad is big and was big at the time, and we had enough testing budget to test 5 to 6 concepts per week. And we really felt like we weren't getting enough out of our partners at the time. So this testing calendar really helped us map out what specific creatives we wanted to test in the future, but also keep all of our vendors and partners accountable for their specific creatives. And if you move over to the next screenshot there, yeah, it's definitely evolved. And even from this screenshot, like, it's evolved way further. I think at a high level, like, making sure you're tracking all of your creatives that you're launching each week, and then B, monitoring performance on each one of those specific creatives. No matter how you're creative testing, whether it's ABO, CBO with minimum spends, or ASC, you really want to monitor each specific creative, and despite it losing or winning, like, understand why that specific asset lost or why it won. And even on the right side of that screenshot there, we have the benchmarks, which I think is where a lot of brands tend to miss in certain cases, because they want to just be incremental to their account average, which I think is the wrong approach. Like, if you're going to launch 2 videos and then 2 statics in any given week, and you're going to want to, like, try to be incremental to your account wide average, you're not really going to find any winners in a specific asset type. So, like, static versus videos at a high level is like your starting place, because those two in almost every single ad account and brand are going to perform fairly differently over time. Like, our statics tend to swing way more bottom funnel than video assets, and I think that goes for a lot of different brands in general. But those are going to have a higher 1-day click ROAS than videos, with like a lower net new reach. So monitoring those benchmarks, especially on a rolling basis when evaluating creative tests, matters so much. So how we currently evaluate creative tests is, we'll launch a specific amount of assets per week, and then 14 days after that, or whenever we hit stat sig, which can depend. Usually we don't even start looking at creative performance until it has at least 2.5K in spend on individual ad variants. When it comes to the concept level, 2.5K is an indicator or guiding light, but really we want to wait until we have like 3 to 5K before really thinking about it. And then after 5K, we can generally make a pretty solid decision on whether to cut or scale. And sometimes they do need more time. Like, we have creative tests that have ran 30 to 60 days before making a true decision, just because it's on that fine line of benchmark. And then your benchmarks are going to change over time, like seasonality. If you're testing in Q4 versus Q1, you're going to have a drastic different performance at the account level. That's going to trickle down into your creative testing averages. So making sure you're evaluating your specific creative that launched that week to your L30 or L60 or L90 creative testing average. In that same time period, I think a lot of people try to create like one-day click or ROAS benchmarks that stay static over time. And, that's how you just get into like down seasonal periods, and you're just going to cut a potential winning ad just because it didn't hit that specific benchmark. Yeah, I think at a high level, that's basically it. Yeah, I know like in that specific tweet, I go through a lot of different breakdowns. I think another thing, like seeing this calendar too, is just so crazy. We've come so far from this specific variant, and back in the day, I even right here see some like split testing going on where, that I think that's a big change that we've made over the last year and a half, 2 years, is moving away from small tweaks in any specific asset type to bigger swings. You have at a high level, your concept, and then you have anywhere from, 1 to 6 individual ad variants within that concept. And back in the day, like we were changing background colors or, headlines or, one thing at a time. Whereas now we're making bigger swings. And I think that's allowed us to get a lot more scale and find winners a lot faster in our creative testing in general. There's so I could spend probably the next 48 hours just talking to you about this testing calendar and kind of where it's at now.
Insane, man. Freaking insane. I have so many different follow-ups. I think the first one that I'm thinking through is just like the role of a media buyer.
Yeah.
Like you said, you've been in this game for a while now and doing this work. Like, is this the role of a media buyer now, or what does it look like in your opinion?
Definitely. Yeah. I remember, being a media buyer back in like the early days, like 2018. I don't know if anybody's in the chat that remembers like the good old Facebook ad days where I feel like it was super hacky back in the day where, you could launch some crazy tactic and, it would play out like CPM arbitrage or whatever it was. Everybody was kind of looking for that next hack. Whereas media buying now is like the algorithms like do their thing. Like they're very, very exceptional at figuring out who your target demographic is and, setting and forgetting broad and really using creative as the biggest lever in an ad account. A media buyer back then was super hands-on keyboard, super in the weeds, less on creative, I feel like. And now it's like heavily focused on creative and even outside of creative, like there's just so much more that ties into media buying that isn't actually, in the weeds, like turning on or off ads. It's like we could go and find somebody, a VA and get great rates and have them click buttons in an ad account, but that's not going to really provide any value. Creative 100% is the biggest lever that everybody has access to that they should be pulling all the time to help improve performance. Yeah.
Huge. And one of the things I think about as it relates to a media buyer and then all of the different tests that you're running here, it's like the structure of an ad account, I think still matters, but I also want to know your opinion. So how do you think about creative testing?
It's a great question. There's still ongoing debates over the best way to creative test and the best structure for creative testing. At a high level, you have pretty broad ends of the spectrum. Like the three in my mind are ASC, ABO, which is ABO is the most traditional method of creative testing. I'm still a massive fan of ABO. And then CBO with minimum spends is kind of what we're doing now for the last, I think like 6 to 8 months we've been doing, or it might be a year now. Time goes by super fast, which I think is the best of both worlds. So you have ASC, which is, the best, if you want to launch creative and get the most efficiency and the best performance, like use ASC. But ABO is where you can mandate spend and mandate learnings on top of that. Like with ASC, you're going to get 3 to 5 or maybe even less than that creatives that get all of the spend and, those tend to, in most cases, be the best performers. But you're going to have those other, 50% or 80% of creatives that get zero spend, and you're not going to understand why either those didn't work, or B, why they potentially could have worked. They just didn't outperform some of those, better performing creatives. But in my opinion, the most efficient way to creative test. And then on the other side, you have ABO, mandate spend, mandate learnings, and really gain as much and absorb as much knowledge as you can about specific creatives. Whereas like CBO with minimum spends is kind of like the middle ground where you're still allowing Meta to allocate spend to what it thinks is the top performing asset within that specific creative stack or week or month. But you're still mandating specific spend into all of those creatives. So you're still going to get those learnings. And, Hexclad's at a different scale where, we're spending anywhere from 1 to 5K on any given creative asset or concept. So we really can't sacrifice learnings to an extent where we're actually exploring like different, testing types and more specifically ASC, alongside our current creative testing campaign using CBO with minimum spends. But it's not one size fits all. Everybody thinks there's a one end all be all way to creative test, and that's just not the case. You'll be able to creative test any way you want in those 3 buckets.
I saw a David Herman tweet recently that was talking about like scaling.
Yeah.
I should be able to pull it up at some point, maybe later while we go through this. But he mentioned where he started to see the most scale outside of CBO, ABO. It's like with the number of creative assets at the ad level.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how like 10 or more assets seem to be working quite well for longevity's sake. Do you have an opinion on this?
I do. Like I mentioned again, I don't think it's like, one size fits all for every specific brand. But, what we've back in the early days, like we took that shotgun approach to creative testing. Like we wanted as much as possible just because we were making net new swings left and right and taking some big stabs at creative just because we really didn't have any creative that scaled within our account. Whereas, year to date and part of last year, like we've been taking the approach of quality over quantity. To Herman's point, I think that 100%, like, giving Meta more creatives to look at and decide whether, this one is going to outperform the others is going to work. And Meta specifically has said that in numerous events where, use ASC and put in as many ads as you want into that campaign and it'll find those winners. I don't think it's necessarily about amount of assets, but more so like quality. I'd rather choose 4 assets and launch that are super high quality and have really big swings and, over a week of creative assets launching like, 50 that are, super basically the same piece of creative, not a big swing, sloppy, quality for sure kind of takes the cake in my personal opinion, but I do know like the quality piece does have an impact on performance overall.
Got you. So let's say there's a media buyer out there right now working for a great brand who has a great product, just needs to get it out into the world. Should they start by thinking about individual ad concepts and like what they should be doing? Or is it higher level and talking about demographics and personas and things along those lines?
I don't know. That's an interesting question. I think the starting point is research on competitors and starting there and figuring out what their, kind of bread and butter is. And then eventually, like once you kind of figure out what works, find some top performers, then you can start making, your own net new swings. And then, from there, start digging into like customer research and building out your avatars. I think that's like the second step from figure out what's working across, all competitors or, everybody in your niche, and then start producing like those specific assets, and then start producing your own assets and really understanding your specific customer. Because even sometimes like in the cookware category, like you have brands in cast iron where, some of those assets and I bet their customer base, it just wouldn't translate to, a Hexclad customer, just because like those two people are two totally separate people. Despite, having that love to cook, like what you cook on a cast iron is completely different than Hexclad. But at the same time, we do combine everything into one amazing Hexclad pan. And if you want to go get Hexclad, and if you're listening, go to hexclad.com and grab that 12-piece set.
I have mine in the kitchen right now.
But yeah, I mean, it's a tricky question. I think starting with competitors is number one.
So you've had a chance to test and run so many different tests with the amount of spend that you've had. Would you say that you learn more from your winners or your losers?
It's a great question. That's interesting. Probably losers, because honestly, we're not like, I've seen anybody's hit rate range from 5% to 30%, but really it's kind of hard, or I tend to not see a hit rate above 30%, where you're 30% of assets are incremental or winning in your ad account, but the other 70%, like that's a larger bulk of creatives in general. So over time, like that's just going to be an insane amount of assets, and you're going to learn a whole lot about why they lost. But I do think, winners are just as valuable. It goes both ways. I don't think there's a right answer to that question.
There's almost so much intuition that's also involved.
Totally. Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Totally. And I think, part of me wants to walk into every single creative test with like a preconceived notion about, oh, like I love this asset and it's going to do so well. But like taking a step back, I've kind of not done that, just because like I could walk into a creative test and see like that our media buyer turned it off. I'm like, why would you turn that off? Like that was supposed to be, this big winner, but data doesn't lie at the end of the day. And making sure you give every single creative the same test and the same effort than any other creative, without any preconceived thought or idea about how it's going to perform is the best route.
Huge, man. And London, there's probably not a lack of ideas now, especially as the team has grown. Like if anything, there's like too many ideas.
There is, yeah.
What's your framework for determining what you say yes to and what you say no to?
It's a great question. Yeah, because we do have this internal ClickUp board where anybody in the org, and actually like we push it out there pretty heavily. Like we want to hear from anybody and everybody, like whether or not they're, in the paid media department. And we do get that, like our suggestions stack up pretty heavily. So we have this quarterly creative call that we review all of those suggestions, put them all in a doc, and we review it together. It's about an hour and a half. And then from there, like we solidify how much spend we have in creative testing, how many assets we can launch in that specific quarter. And then, so we have our total amount of concepts that we can launch with our given spend for that quarter. And then from there, we'll narrow down asset types. So static video, how many we want to launch in each one of those categories. And then we'll map out our demographics as well. There's a lot that goes into like choosing whether or not a specific creative will move forward or actually get produced. And most of the time it's not because it's a bad idea. It's just because we're over or under indexed on any specific bucket. So like whether that is, we have 50 videos in a quarter, and that 51st one is awesome, but it just rolls over to the next quarter just because we don't have enough room in that specific quarter. I do think like some of the ideas that we've gotten in the past might require too much production or too heavy on the bandwidth side. We still want to expedite creative. Some of our higher fi CTV and linear TV assets do take more time, do cost more money, and but those are kind of in a completely different bucket than paid social. I do think there should be hi-fi and more well produced, well thought out, almost commercial-esque creatives in an ad account. But granted, again, that's going to be a smaller percent of the total asset launching in that quarter. So we kind of think about it that way, and then from there we break down our sprints into monthly and weekly cadences. And we're obviously meeting weekly to to chat about creative performance and all that good stuff.
I love it, man. I love it. There's so, like, when I hear you talk about all the different variables that go into prioritization, like, it's insane. Like, there has to
Yeah,
be a method to the madness, and you're putting some organization around it, which is absolutely
definitely.
incredible.
I think, from a high level to anybody who's listening, starting with spend is usually the best route. Like from spend, you can map out how many creatives you can test in any given time period, and B, what's your stat sig number? Like, for us at Hexclad, I brought up like that 2,500 to 5K mark. Like how many purchases do you need? And then how much spend do you need to hit that stat sig point to evaluate any specific creative? And then from there back into what's a reasonable testing budget for your specific account in that period of time. Like our testing budget is going to go up or down over the year, where Q4 Black Friday is where we're not really creative testing that much, just because we have all of our top performing formats and we're really diving into like the best of the best. And that's where we're going to be doing more iterating. And for the latter, Q1, 2, 3, we're going to be heavily testing into net new concepts and taking less iterative swings in general.
That makes sense, because when it's a time of year where you can capitalize, and you've like,
Yeah,
you've
built up all
you've
these
had your Rocky moment,
for
running up
one reason.
the stairs to the Liberty
Exactly.
Bell, and you're like, we're
Yep.
here, let's get to it at that
Exactly.
point. But you take
Yep.
punches earlier on in the process.
100%. And, going back to hit rate, that's going to change over time too. Our hit rate fluctuates a lot, and really it's kind of hard to find true outstanding incremental winners at Hexclad, just because like we produce amazing assets now. Like our internal team of killers, like shout out to them because they do an insane job. I remember like stepping in on day one of Hexclad and like working with these agencies, and agencies are amazing, but like at some point you're gonna just outgrow agencies in general, and really putting that time, money and effort into an internal team is just going to pay dividends. And I think we're finally at that tipping point of, wow, we've done a really fucking great job with our creatives over the last year and a half, 2 years. So
Let's go!
there it is. I knew it was coming.
I got to use one. It's so unnatural, so I'm just like figuring out what the hell is going on,
Totally.
Yeah. One of the things you mentioned earlier in there is a place to start. So speaking out to the people in the audience here is like starting with spend, right?
Yeah.
And you broke it down into volume and stat sig. What I
Yeah.
am curious about there is like, how do you think about volume? Like, is there a certain amount of money where you're like, I know I can create this many assets for that amount of spend?
For us at Hexclad, I mean, and granted, Hexclad is like such an interesting case just because like most brands like operate within, $50, $200 CACs, and, are able to test a lot faster and, get learnings quicker. And Hexclad, the amount of time it takes us to hit stat sig is a lot different. Like, a brand in $50 to $100 can get to stat sig in 7 days. Granted, seasonality does play into that too. So like you want to make sure you have the full calendar 7 days, Monday through Sunday, just because some days are going to perform better than others, and there could be variance. And if you're testing for 2 days, see success, that Saturday, Sunday, it might fall off. So make sure you're testing in full 7 days is my best approach, at least. And usually 14 days for full like transparency on creative performance. But starting there with spend, I don't think there's really a correct number to how much you're spending. Typically 10 to 30, 40% of an account is where your creative testing budget is going to land. 40% being like you have 0 winners, you're kind of starting from scratch, walking into Hexclad basically on day one. Like our creative testing budget was a way larger percent of account-wide spend than it is now. Getting to stat sig, like we could test up to probably 10 concepts per week if we really wanted to, but we're taking that quality over quantity approach where, we really want to produce the best creatives at our scale. And I think it does change. Whereas, before we were taking the shotgun approach, and that was great. and it worked for us. And we found what worked, and we found those templates. And now we've kind of been scaling into those formats, and obviously taking, net new swings along the way, but really focusing on brand identity. And a core KPI for us this year that's been instrumental to our success is new reach, and really hitting new users, because like reach and frequency caps at a scale and point with any brand, you're going to start to see that fall down. So we've been really looking at those personas and trying to create individual creatives for, personas that are maybe outside of what we're currently targeting, and using that, again, creative as a lever to reach new audiences. We've also been using view content as a lever to bridge that gap with new reach and new users in general. We actually just ran a house test. I think it's been talked about on the Marketing Operators podcast, but that was super instrumental and incremental in general, and that actually outperformed our traditional conversion based campaign in a where is our next best dollar spent geo holdout test.
Huge. Oh
Huge.
my gosh.
Massive unlock. Yeah, that was a big win for us this year.
Yeah. Are you, in terms of your scope of work, is it just Meta, or does it span across all channels?
So now it's all of our paid media channels.
Yeah.
Obviously, Meta, like, we still have a massive investment there, and it is our leading channel in terms of our paid media stack. So my involvement with Meta is still relatively high. I like to think of it as breaking down my time specifically into a percent of allocation. So like, if we're spending 50% on Meta, like, I'll spend 50% of my time on Meta, and then try to allocate, in a similar fashion to those other paid media channels. Cause, it is easy to, lose track or sight on a channel spending like $1,000 to $5,000 a day, where, in our world, that's crumbs. But looking at a calendar year, that's going to be 365K to over $1 million that we spent on, this little channel. So making sure I check in on some of those smaller channels really matters too. But yeah, most of my time is spent on Meta when it comes to strategy, tactics, and creative.
And for everything we've chatted about up until this point, like the creative testing calendar, the actual implementation, like, it's been Meta focused. How does this translate to your other channels, if at all?
Yeah, definitely. So we have a creative testing calendar for all of our paid media channels, or at least the creative driven channels. Like, we've launched YouTube, CTV and linear TV is not on there just yet, just because the amount of creative assets we launched there is hell of a lot less than, something like a YouTube, Meta, or paid social. But yeah, we've launched YouTube, Snapchat's on there, TikTok, obviously. Those are like kind of the big three for us. But yeah, it's as simple as duping out that same template and just tracking. I think that's like the number one, like, going back to like that screenshot on that tweet where V1 was just a way of tracking your creative assets that get launched. Like, that's what every brand should be doing at the end of the day with every single paid media channel.
Huge, man. And from a learning standpoint, I guess what I'm curious about is there any like cross-pollination of learnings that happen on what you see on TikTok might inform something you do on Meta, vice versa?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it varies for the most part. Like, our TikTok specific assets are going to perform different than Meta specific assets. And over the last year, like, we've been, instead of duping out all of our Meta ads, video ads, or statics into TikTok, we're like actually creating concepts specifically for TikTok, and like getting more native with each of these paid media channels. And like YouTube, creating concepts specifically for that channel. I think a lot of brands just do, their top performing Meta content on every single other paid media channel. And, it does work. But at the same time, like, they might not have enough resources to produce specific content for each one of these channels. Like, Hexclad got away with it for a while, probably a little bit longer than we should have. But You'll hit that point where you need to start producing assets specific for that channel, and it will provide a lift. Like we've seen YouTube and TikTok like performance drastically increase once we've like given those channels the creative love that they deserve. And same with AppLovin too. AppLovin's been massive craze over the last 8 months. We launched end of actually right before a Black Friday sale last year, and have seen some pretty crazy performance over the last 8 months. And I think year to date we have seen it increase, and our creative approach there has changed too. So like, despite most of our top performers on Meta working with AppLovin, we've started to kind of create a structure, at least for its own strategy there. Still in the early days, but going to be producing concepts for AppLovin specifically moving into Q3.
Damn, man. I understand why the team is building out in the way that it is with all these different moving pieces.
Our org has completely changed over the last like 3 years. Like we are like a huge team now. And it's, I mean, going after killers in the space and finding like the talent that we found, I think has had or helped us, reach the numbers that we have. We would not be here right now without this team. So
shout out to the squad. Shout out to the squad.
Yeah,
for sure. Something I'm curious about, like acquisition wise, obviously we think of paid and everything paid related. Are you ever thinking about organic?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think now more than ever, me and Connor were just on a call the other day where, it's time to start tracking organic, and especially like spend's going to fluctuate, and you need to monitor your organic traffic levels in general. Like that's going to change. And where that traffic is coming from specifically, like we've been working with a partner, Marathon Data, to actually help gather and glean more insights into organic traffic and like how our paid media spend is actually directly impacting organic traffic over time, which I think is super, super sick. It's like little things like that where like Hexclad now is like those projects are, on the forefront of Hexclad's success, and like pretty big in me and Connor's eyes. So
the foundation is always the data and the tracking. I'm picking that theme up for sure. I do want to talk about the creative side of things. So when you are thinking about organic, it is the tracking and the influence on each other. But creatively, are you drawing insights and learnings from there? Are you having input over there? What does it look like?
Great question. To be honest, like my scope within organic hasn't really been that in the weeds. Pretty much my entire time at Hexclad. I do like keep myself accountable for checking in on the organic side. But to an extent, like we have a killer team on that front, and they do an amazing job. And it's like I do check in, and we do use some of those, like some of the content that organic produces, like on the paid media front. But it's not like every single, specific asset that launches on organic needs to launch on paid media. And I actually think that's like an easy way to shoot yourself in the foot. Because those two just are totally different worlds.
100%.
But, there is like, every couple of launches, like you'll find one that's like, damn, this is going to work really well for paid media. And then you launch it and it performs well. So
yeah. I've been personally thinking about organic a ton. Like paid, I always love, and it's like a focus group that you get immediately with all the different insights that you obtain. But I think Gary Vee put a quote out earlier this year. He's on a podcast, something like that, talking about organic. Excuse me.
Yeah, organic is like super like on the forefront of Hexclad, and we have an amazing seeding program that we use to accelerate our organic, in general, outside of like internal brand organic. That's really helped.
I'm trying to think about that stuff for motion even.
Yeah,
like we are on the paid side for sure, and like we practice what we preach, of course, but I'm also thinking about like organic strategies that might make sense to leverage the algorithms and the reach that we can get there and what that looks like. So I thought I'd ask you, I was like, have you been thinking about it at all? These paid media minds now thinking about
I do. And really, like for me personally, I want to go viral on TikTok. And I still think TikTok is like the perfect place to go viral, like every single person gets a pretty solid chance at, like, if your content, is native and works, and there's an audience for it that loves it, like you're going to be able to, scale and find that niche. Whereas like if you throw something out that's like, nobody cares about, or you don't have an audience for, like it's not going to hit. So TikTok is still number one in my eyes for going viral and like
Yeah.
building awareness at the organic level outside of, on the brand side, e-commerce. Seeding has been a massive unlock for us. I think seeding is like an amazing strategy that every single brand should use, which I
Love
think most do, but just got to reinforce.
it.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Even speaking of TikTok, I'm gonna take clips from this one and post it on TikTok and see. All
There
right,
it
we're
is.
going viral. What's going on? What we
I love it. Split test. Yeah.
got? London. The a couple other things that come to mind for me is just like you're an operator in the day to day doing excellent work. You've talked about being a part of this like Twitter community too and like contributing to it. I guess what I'm curious about is if you have a creative strategy hot take right now that you'd like to share with people.
That's crazy. I feel like hot takes are the easiest way to split your audience into two pieces and then to lose like half of them. I really don't have any hot takes. I think make massive swings. The bigger, the better. And I don't even feel like that's a hot take necessarily, but iteration is over in my opinion. And if you can choose to hit crazy different spectrums of like creative testing, like do it. I don't know. Yeah, I try to.
Good one. I've had a lot of conversations lately that talked about like the idea of volume, like more volume is better, but it's like adding an
Right.
asterisk to that. It's like
Yeah, I think volume is one of those takes where I think volume doesn't really matter as much as a lot of people say it does. Still take swings and still, don't just launch one concept a week, but I think really be thoughtful about what you're launching and how many. It also depends where you're at. Like, early days, take that shotgun approach, toss together as many statics as you can and, kind of see what hits, but also don't jeopardize like learnings and, making sure you're giving every single piece of creative a fair shot. And don't walk into a creative test with preconceived notions about being a winner or a loser. And I think with those three things, like you're going to win. Yeah, I don't really think volume really matters that much as long as you're within the constraints of those spend limits that we talked about before.
100%. And then I think another piece along the lines of like volume testing and just like testing in general, you've built up this like vast amount of knowledge in the paid media space on the D2C side, everything, right? If you were to speak to your younger self to try and just like talk them through and give them some advice, is there a lesson in creative strategy or media buying or in career building that you've had to learn the hard way that you wish you could go tell yourself in the past? Don't worry.
It's a good one. That is a good one. I think I mean, coming from like my media buying background specifically, like I was a Photoshop and Premiere guy. Like I would go and build my own creatives for like all of my clients. And granted, like that did take up like a bulk of my time, which I thought was super, super valuable. Like going through the traditional pipelines of, agencies and even internal teams and like process, like it can slow things down. And like sometimes you just have to speed things up. I think that's one thing. Maybe I didn't learn the hard way, but maybe I did because I was the one personally like creating all of these assets, and like I kind of moved on my own timeline instead of like waiting for the brand to get back to me with creatives or the agency to somebody on their team to get back to me. Really just moving at my own pace that fit again that creative testing volume that was fit for that specific brand. Yeah, I think that's a big one that most brands or a lot of brands kind of struggle with is like moving a little bit slower than they need to. I'm all about speed and efficiency. Whereas like now we're kind of slowing down a little bit and like thinking a little bit more, but like be fast. I think a lot of brands move a little too slow. Could just go, toss something together. And like, I think that's why, honestly, looking back in my early media buying days of like building my own creatives, granted, they were pretty horrible. It was funny. I was actually just looking in my drive uh, at some of those previous creatives that I made back in the day. I'm like, damn, what was I thinking? It was so bad. But some of them, like, I was like, wow, this was actually pretty sick. Granted, like, didn't really follow the best practices of paid media or direct response creative, but I did kind of pat myself on the back and also not pat myself on the back for some creatives. But it's pretty cool to look back. But yeah, that's like a lot of or some media buyers don't really have that creative side, which I think every media buyer needs and is a must these days. Is kind of the creative and landing page. I guess you would call it.
Creative and landing page is a must.
Yep,
For media buyers.
absolutely. I
Huge,
feel like
man.
that goes without saying, but
Yeah, man. Yeah. Okay, London, you've been so gracious with your time here. I have a couple final ones. One's
yeah,
more
hit me.
practical, one's more inspirational for the people who are tuning in. So on the practical side of things, I wanted to go back to the idea of like big swings and generating new ideas. So you'd already talked about crowdsourcing from people
Yep.
within different meetings. How are you guys outside of that, like coming up with new ideas? Like, are you doing some of the stuff you see on Twitter or seeing on organic or what's going on?
Yeah, we do. So a couple of things there. Like we have access to this tool called Archive, so we can see all of the creative that gets posted that has Hexclad tagged, and obviously at our scale, like this is a massive, massive Dropbox of creative, and we've actually been using AI to kind of sift through those creatives and like figure out what is the best or what would work the best in a paid media, and then also like using on some of our landing pages for social proof. So that's been like a pretty cool strategy as of late. And then, shoot, I just lost my train of thought and forgot about your question.
It's all good. It's all good. I was just asking like the ideas, how you'd come up with them, and I was like, do you
Yeah,
try to do
yeah,
that on Twitter? Do you look at the tag posts? How does that look?
yeah. Tag posts for sure. Some of the tactics we see on Twitter. Honestly, I think like a lot of the stuff posted on Twitter is kind of like just to get clients for certain agencies or like get your name out there. There's some crazy strategies on Twitter. There's also like some really good strategies. I've been seeing a lot of like certain prompts with like VO3 or AI assisted creative. I think that's on the forefront of my mind. I don't know. Using competitors is always a good one to like kind of figure out what people are launching. What people are posting about. Yeah, but also at the end of the day, like we're all kind of on the growth side. We're all creative strategists ish, even like retention, building out emails. So using like that ClickUp board to like kind of insert our thoughts and ideas and different ad creative, and then reviewing that together is like probably the number one source of like where we get our creative stack for any given quarter or sprint. But we also use a handful of outside factors. Like we have a group chat on Instagram that we send ads to. Twitter, same thing. And we do launch like some of those formats that we see organically, but really just comes from conglomerate Hexclad brains, and then getting those into
Hive
motion.
mind. The hive
Yeah.
mind unites. The name
Exactly.
of that platform was called Art Archive. Was that what it's called?
Archive. Yep.
Okay.
I think
Archive.
archive.io. Yeah.
Okay.
But pretty cool tool. And I don't think we've reached the most use out of it. And it's also a really, really great tool to go and find micro creators to work with.
For sure.
Micro creators are super top of mind for Hexclad. Like last year we kind of spearheaded this micro creator sprint process, and found some creators in the space that didn't necessarily have a big following. Like that's something that changed in our strategy there. Like we had this minimum like 10K followers. Like we kind of wanted more followers there, but now it's like no followers is okay. Like as long as this person is unique and like can talk to the camera and speak about the product well, like yeah, that's all that matters. And kind of reframing our focus on that has been a massive unlock. And we've used Archive to find some of our top performing micro creators in general too. So shout out to them.
That's so interesting. Is the plan with those micro influencers to run their creative in your own ad account, or are
Yeah,
they?
so we reach out to them. You can't just go grab some piece of content from that channel, but they make it really easy to send a DM to that specific creator or whoever posted that and reach out for access rights, and then hop on a call and talk with them about potential paid media deal. But yeah, most of those creatives will go through paid media, and the way we test those is a little bit different than the way we test our actual concepts that our internal team produces, just because that's kind of more of the shotgun approach, where we'll test those in a separate kind of ASC campaign on a longer term basis, and then we'll see what creators work on a smaller paid deal. Like we'll launch that specific asset from Archive after we chat with the creator, and then we'll go back to them with an actual paid media driven direct response brief and continue to scale with that creator. That's something that we've worked on at Hexclad too. Like day one, 0 micro creators or ambassadors outside of Gordon Ramsay, which we're so blessed to have access to him. That's kind of a pretty big unlock. But we had no other micro creators, and we relied on Gordon for our content a lot more than we should be. Where now we have a lot of micro creators that have scaled with us over the last year. And we have this deck of creators that we can use for any specific moment, whether it's like Mother's Day, boom. We have 5 specific creators that are going to fit this moment really, really well. And then Father's Day, and then, 4th of July, or even like a new product launching, like our barbecue tool set and barbecue grill pan, like boom, we have a outdoor creator who loves grilling. Like we can go reach out to him. So having access to that has definitely set ourselves up for success with specific moments and time periods. And there's a reason why our 1-day click ROAS and performance for sale periods this year have, basically doubled across the board. It's been insane performance. And again, massive shout out to our creative team, because performance has been rock solid. Yeah.
Is that you doing all the micro influencer work, or whose role is that?
So last year, I kind of spearheaded the actual process and getting our first batch of creatives in the queue. We were working with an agency at the time. Shout out to them. They did an amazing job with working on that process for like a V1 micro creator sprint. And now it's that process has been translated over to the creative team and influencer / ambassador team. So they kind of spearhead direct management with creators. And then obviously Alyssa and Paige on our creative front, they do the briefing, working with the creator. They actually set up a 15-minute call with the creator prior to any of the briefing, just to understand like that specific creator a little bit more in depth. And our template for creators doesn't really change, but we do change and tweak certain things to kind of match their vibe, if you will. Yeah.
Very cool, man. 2 questions turned to 10 turned to 20 20 turned to 40.
I know. I can't believe it's already been an hour. It seems like 10 minutes.
Insane, man. The last one I have for you, I've been asking all of the guests, and some have it immediately, some need some time. So if you need some time, throw it back to me first. But the question I have is I'm wondering if you have a favorite quote, and if so, why is it your favorite quote?
It's a good one. I do have one, actually. I think it's every day is a Monday until every day is a Saturday. I don't even know who quoted that. I want to say like some pizza company or CEO. I really think a lot of people don't have the same motivation as me, and that's not like a shout out to myself, but I really want to and this is what I love too. So it's easy for me to like really grind and like continue to work and figure out that next best thing or creative or whatever. Like it really gets me excited. And I really think every day is a Monday until eventually I'll retire and, have launched, 5 of my own brands. But yeah, it really doesn't even feel like work. And yeah, that's a big one in my book.
Has it always been like that for you?
I think so. Ever since like high school and like seeing those drop shipping ads and like the thought of getting rich quick, and I don't know, it was a little bit about money back in the day. Like money was kind of number one, but it's definitely changed. Like I don't even care about money now. It's like this shit really just gets me excited. So glad to be in this industry. Yeah, I think it's always been like that. I've always been kind of a grindy, motivational guy. Yes, I don't know, something kind of tweaked or in my brain senior year of high school and like swapped from, kind of party, going out, didn't really have a direction to like, this is my true direction. And I was able to like kind of see a clear picture of like how to get there. But yeah, that's kind of my quote. It seems like kind of cliche or cringy,
Oh
but
man, live your truth. Live your truth. Nah, for sure.
I
I
have so
love
many
that.
other ones, but that's I guess top of mind
No,
for
I
me.
love that one. And honestly, like I felt that vibe from you since the day I met you. I always, for everyone tuning in, I always
Love
call London the mad scientist. This guy's gonna come up with
it.
some great ideas, cook it
I
up, and it's
love
gonna be
it.
sick. So
Yeah.
I felt the vibe. I felt the vibe. Game recognized game. So for sure, man. For sure. All right.
Great stuff, dude. Great stuff. I feel like I kind of have to get back to my actual actual job now. But dude, it's been amazing. Amazing, amazing.
I
Yeah, great
appreciate you
stuff.
so much, man. Thanks for coming up here, doing your thing. There's so many good learnings, and let's check out your clips. Your clips are going to be everywhere, so get to
I love
repost
it.
it.
I'm gonna go rewatch this whole thing later this evening, so I'll find some.
I love it, man. I love it. All right, London.
Thanks for having me on. Really
Most
appreciate
definitely.
it, brother.
Most definitely.
Cool. Talk to
Peace.
you soon.
Yes, sir.
Peace.
Oh man, everybody. I think I had maybe how many questions prepared? I probably had like 8 to 12, something like that. And then as London's going in, this is what happens when you talk to practitioners. Practitioners know exactly what is going on in their day-to-days. Sometimes they have a level of expertise that's difficult to even describe, but London drops so many gems. Like just casually right at the beginning, we're having a little bit of chit chat, little bit of small talk, getting to know each other a little bit. Jokes, you already know each other, but just kind of just bouncing back and forth off of each other. Then immediately he's like, all right, time to get to work here. Let's talk game, right? So what he immediately came with at that point is like, how do we tie the story of our creative and our landing page together? And just went in on that entire process. I have 5 different stages of my funnel. All 5 are customized. We found that these are the landing pages that work best. From a creative element, this is the goal of the creative, and this is what we lean into. He almost couldn't help it. It was oozing out at that point. And when I see stuff like that and hear stuff like that, it gets me going. Like my energy just goes through the roof at that point. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that really stood out. But I think the piece is London. He spoke about the micro influencer program that he was building out. And something that resonated with me is that he talked about how last year it was his responsibility to get the initial project off the ground. So build the backlog of micro creator content. Now, what that tells me is, and through London's experiences, he's a 0 to 1 person. And what 0 to 1 people are really great at doing is that there is all of this freaking chaos. Not necessarily any direction, but this person is scrappy enough to put it together, make sense of it, start to scale it, then hand it off. And I think that's something that a lot of people who ever tune into this can really embody. Like we're talking to people in creative strategy where you have to rebuild from the ground up so many different times. Even like London described earlier, what he was saying was literally, hey, depending on the time of the year, our budget towards creative testing might be different. It's not always going to be 10%. It might be 40 while we're trying to figure out what's going on. So that was London. I think what I'd like to do here is first and foremost, whoever's been tuning in Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. ET, knows that I like to take a little stand-up break. So what I'm gonna do real quick is I got a standing desk. So you're gonna rise up, 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 hey, up, 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 hey, up, hey. So we're gonna go up, and I have one more person joining me today that I'm so excited for y'all to be able to hear from. Okay, let's get it now. But before that, let me just do a quick stand up. If you have a standing desk, I always encourage you, join me. It's good for your back. Get some good slides on or a little walking pad. Stay healthy. I myself, if you've seen the last 3 episodes, come with a protein smoothie. So I'm sitting good, staying healthy, because these conversations just energize me and I need to come back. And I'm just like, all right, let's make sure that this happens. But the next person we have joining today has quite the resume, especially in our space. He's over at CrossNet, and I feel like we met 4 years ago at this point, which is absolutely insane. He's then over at Homestead. Now he's up to his own stuff. So today we're going to learn a ton of what the own stuff is and what's going on. But I wanted to welcome my guy to the stage. Yo.
What's up, man? You inspired me to get on my standing desk. So I'm standing up. The energy comes out. So as I'm getting warmed up, it's like, let's go. Let's turn this thing up.
I love this. That's what's up, man. Oh, it's so good to see you. How are you?
Pretty good, man. It's always great to catch up, and appreciate you having me on.
Most definitely. You're still down in Florida, or where are you at these days?
Miami. You can't take me out of here.
Home base. Never leave it. I love it, man. Well, I'm so excited to have you. I feel like there's a ton of things that we've never got a chance to talk about, and you just have a bunch going on in your world. But I am wondering, for our audience today, just to kick off, can you just do a quick, tell us about yourself. What are you most well known for? What's your work experience? Honestly, anything you're willing to share. We can take it from there.
For sure. Yeah, definitely got a big background. So as you mentioned, I've been in-house, at CrossNet, been there scaling brands from seven figures to 8 figures, big, wholesale retail presence. Learned a ton there, went to Homestead to try to replicate success across a lot of different brands. Got to work with probably close to 100 brands there over like a 2.5-year period. Obviously got to work with a lot of killers, including, even London himself from the Hexclad team. Learned a ton, and then decided I wanted to kind of go do my own thing and actually work with a bit smaller brands. Wanted to take a playbook that I've kind of built out that's very applicable. So right now, started my own little, started freelancing and kind of grown its own boutique agency, predictable growth. So really focused on 7-figure brands, really helping those brands that are struggling, trying to break through the fence, can't really afford huge agencies, and trying to find ways to help them grow, teach them however I can. So been doing that for soon. It'll be a year. Having an absolute blast doing it. So I appreciate you letting me on and hopefully share some sauce with some people.
Time flies, doesn't it? Like, you already been at it a year? God damn, holy crap.
It's crazy. It feels like it wasn't that long ago. I'm looking at the calendar. I'm like, whoa, yep, we're almost in Q4 again.
Black Friday, Cyber Monday, right here. You have such a unique experience here. I think at the highest level, what I am curious about is if you translated from different roles to different types of clients across the way. Like, what is your superpower that you've been able to build out at this point?
Yeah, my superpower really is just simplifying things really, really well. So we live in a world where buzzwords and just, the tactics that are applicable to maybe 0.1% of people in our industry is what gets attention. I like going and helping the masses. So my strategy are things that can be applied to like any size business. So it's really fundamental grounded. My formal education in the past was actually finance. So very numbers forward approach. Definitely helps in the world of performance marketing. So I think what's unique is I take a very P&L focused approach, and I'm really able to help brands identify the right configurations of KPIs, not only across paid channels, but also their omni-channel approaches. So that's kind of like my unique approach. A lot of people in my industry might be very technical, media buying style first. I'm just a very, fundamental, just groundwork kind of guy. So it's my own style, I think I found.
That's so interesting, because often, like, we're talking about the tactics. I think one of the things that I talk about a lot, at least internally on my end, is just within conversation, the client with your team, there's always different altitudes of conversation. Like, it's like you're operating as an IC or in the tactics. You're operating at the team level, like what matters to this team. And then you're operating at the org level of like what matters to this organization. And I feel like what I'm hearing from you is like the simplification just means like, how do we remove the noise of the day-to-day tactics and like what matters to an individual team? And how do we bring it to that highest level and what the org should care about? Am I right in the assessment of like the initial stab that you take?
That's exactly it. I mean, one of the big reasons that led me to go agency side from brand, usually do the opposite. You go agents first, then brand, was I got to really learn a lot of, how to speak to brands and what they actually care about. So, they care about the P&L. So that's probably why it influenced my approach, where it's not about what your report is on specifically what you did. It's like everything is from the lens of this is how I'm making your business better, and I'm tying it by profit, not just some BS, soft metric or something else. Like, no, I made you actual profit, and this is how I'm explaining it why. So I think that is for sure, you hit the nail on the head.
It's so interesting, man. So you've been both brand side and agency side. What did you love about both experiences? What did you not love about each experience? Talk to
Yeah, I
us.
think the pros on being brand side is you get to go so deep into every single area, really. So you get to be super integrated at levels that you never are going to be at an agency. It's just not possible. So I got to really build that strong foundation of really what makes things matter for the brand and what makes the biggest impact for business. The cons there is you're only working on one brand, so it's one industry, one tactic. You're limited by resources or what that company is really built for. Agency now is the flip side, where you get to work on a lot of different projects, but you can only go so deep. So I think that's where I've kind of married my approach of like understanding, at the most tactical level, what makes a difference, and then at the agency, when you have a time restriction of how much you could allocate to certain clients, what really moves the needle the most. And that's probably why my approach is so simplified, where it's like, here's how we're able to mobilize and get 80% of the results with like 20% of the effort, instead of a lot of people that go spend 3 6 months going down a rabbit hole for like something that was a waste of time and resources. I'm very good at directing resources for brands in terms of cash and time. So I think this is really, really awesome what you're extracting and how I'm even like reflecting on my own journey.
I always say, for some reason, we all have expertise, but sometimes it's hard to articulate exactly what that expertise is. It's just like, I do this because I do it. That's the right thing to do. What do you mean? Why do you think another way? So whenever you're forced to go through that motion, I feel like it's always beneficial. I get it. I'm lucky. I'm lucky I get to hear it from the other side. So it's super cool. It's super cool. I do want to talk about the agency side, but I want to start on the brand end. So on the brand side of things, now with your exposures through agency and working on the brand side, I guess like what are the most common mistakes that you see brands making and how can they correct them?
Yeah, there's a ton. I definitely have a lot of hot takes that I've seen. I will say my hot take lately is like, the issue with most brands, more in the seven figures trying to break into the next level is themselves. And that's tough to swallow, where a lot of times you're the brand owners, the only one shooting themselves in the foot. Just being either very distracted. Like I said, you're either going to go down things that are not necessary, just like trying to catch someone else. Oh, well, they have that fancy website. Congrats. There goes 6 months and like 20 plus K, when you could have been focusing on the basics. The other parts is like, very fundamentals is a lot of times right now, there's so much unnecessary agency hate where you see brand owners go and try and figure it out themselves. I mean, that makes sense in the beginning, but I think as you reach a certain level, it's definitely valuable to start investing in, even if it's consulting or other people to try to help you get to the next stage. It's important. So sometimes taking a step back, asking for some help is a big thing. And then also just try not to do it all yourself either. So it's good to get a good foundational learning, talk to trusted sources that represent you and you're able to learn and gain more, find the plugs that you have to do, and then try to find those technicians that can go and help you get to the next level. So a lot of times that's really it. When I've worked on the agency side, I think I even attributed like the success that we would have with a client is 50% on the client themselves. So, I've said it so many times, I could work with two clients and do the exact same thing, but one lets me do my job and one doesn't. The results are totally different. So sometimes it's being a good partner is a huge, huge, huge part of it. That also means you should expect the same from your other partners. Not to say that most agencies aren't great partners. It's definitely a very clear 50-50 relationship, I believe. And even if you're in-house, that's with your team as well. So just viewing everything as a 50-50 partnership is what's going to take to succeed, as a brand owner, whether you're working with an agency, in-house, freelancer, or yourself. Like, you've got to just do it all.
Huge, man. Huge. I think like the through line that I'm hearing when we talk about altitudes of conversation, and then the example you gave there, it's like you're the CEO whisperer, you know? It's just like, hey, that's a shiny object. Don't look at it. Like, hey, that's noise. Let's come back.
Yes,
Blinders, please. At that point.
I think I excel there. I think I've always said this. Like, if you're in this live stream, like you probably have the knowledge that you need to get to where you need to go. Where as you grow later on, it's actually knowing what not to do is what becomes more valuable. So like unlearning and knowing what not to fall into actually becomes the most valuable piece as you're growing your business. Where founders get stuck is they just keep getting in their own way, get distracted, doing the wrong things. Focus and double down. It's not the sexiest, but the fundamentals works.
So if I was a consultant or an agency myself, or let's say even just like a team member on that team, because like managing up is a thing in that process, how would you recommend you become like a founder whisperer and be able to anchor the conversation back to where you want it to go?
That for sure was something that I learned at the agency side, trying to coach a whole team of media buyers, account managers on how to do it. And the answer that I have is it's purely experience. Until you've been able to kind of execute and do it and demonstrate, your strategy and work, you have to earn it every single time with every new client that works. Like they don't care if you've done it for someone else, really. Can you do it for myself? So you need to earn that trust over time. Just asking for permission, I think, is the most tactical step. It's like, hey, I really want to test this. Please give me the ability to roll it out for 2-4 weeks, whatever the case is, and then just go back to the numbers. That's the beautiful thing about how analytical our industry is there's always numbers that can go and reflect it. So even if they're like that ad was ugly as hell, and then you show the numbers, so all the time still it never ends. Where it's just like, why the hell is that ad still running? And then you show them the screenshot, and it's just like, well, it's your most profitable ad. So ask for permission. Don't be shy. And then if you prove yourself, they're going to be more likely to keep listening to you. And eventually, you're kind of in that conversation as an equal, trusted partner.
Awesome, man. And once you have the ear of the decision maker on client side in your own brand, then it comes to the actual tactics themselves. So whoever is executing on the work. You spoke about agency side, the media buyers. You've been on the other side as well. When it comes to the tactics, how involved do you get into it? Where it's like run ads this way, or like make these types of creatives? What does that look like?
For sure, very focused on make these types of creatives. Right now, like I said, because I'm working with brands, really trying to break from the 30,000 a month, going up to the 100,000 a month. That's what's holding them back. You go into their ad accounts, there's no creative diversity. Very singular formats in terms of even video or statics. It's not rare to see people barely having a mix of even just video and static. So people skew a little too heavily between even that. But then when it comes to different types of like themes, so us versus them, benefits, testimonials, power quotes, there's so many different styles that most brands don't have it in their account. And obviously there's a lot of chatter with like how the algorithm is moving. You need to even move away from like historically everyone's done like a ton of like headline tests where it's like your whole iteration batch is like headlines. Now instead it's like you need to be very visually different, but follow like the templates that we know kind of work that are out there. I really focus on just finding different ways that you could visually tell the same story, and that's something that brands to this day, it's very fundamental, are lacking.
And when you're working with brands, like it can be overwhelming, because it's like, hey, we need new creative. It's like, holy shit, what should we make? What does it need to look like? So in your world, is there a framework that you tend to follow of how to anchor people of this is where we start, this is what we're getting to, and this is what we're building?
Yeah, a lot of times it's really just going in there and seeing what's working first off. So if you go in there and see what's working first off, it's like, okay, well, I've had brands where they have, they're very video dominant and they've clearly found an angle. And then when you watch the video, it's like, oh, well, you don't even need to know the data. You just it just stands out. It's like that was that moment in that video that I remember. It just stands out. And sometimes it could be a quote. So like I remember looking at a skincare brand. It's like, oh, this is like my secret to glass skin, right? It's like, oh, that was unique. Now it's how do you remake that as a static ad and showcase it? For other brands, it's like, okay, well, you clearly have messaging trends or pillars that are working. Most of your ads are focused on this use case or this specific demographic. Start doubling down and making it. And now if you're going into video or even image, get creators in that age demographic or that use case. So it's really, really, really simple where, again, anybody watching this can go in there, go look at your own ad account. I recommend, even utilizing like Motion itself. Go in there, put up your top ads, go to the thumbnail preview. And that's always an exercise that I do, is like, do your ads all look the same, or is there a nice variety of it? And I think that's a good challenge and a starting point that I do even when I audit a brand, is like, are you just a sea of the sameness, or do you have good differences in messaging and different pockets?
That is so interesting, because like I'm speaking to your ability to go to different levels, right? Like I'm imagining talking to a creative director and like having that conversation. And something really interesting you mentioned was not just like looking at the top ad, but hey, there are some messaging pillars. There are some content pillars that come to life. How important do you think it is for a brand to have a grasp of what you'd consider to be a pillar?
That's the fundamentals. I mean, I don't start working with any brand until I do that. The moment that I onboard a brand, it's digesting who their competitors are, digesting every single one of the reviews, what people are saying about it, running, again, utilizing software analytics like yours, going into, motion and finding what age demographics is the spend skewing to, who's performing well. So that's even going to influence now. Okay, well, based on this, here are the top 3 personas or use cases. So when I go into now coming up with creative strategy briefs, it's like, okay, here's what's working, here's who are doing it. How can we start hitting these people that are clearly buying with messaging that suits them even more? So understanding the messaging is the core pillar of it. If you're over here, just finding whatever people are posting, whatever swipe file somebody put up today and trying to copy it, I mean, you need to understand the headlines, the use cases, every single thing that matters for your brand. And once you do that, then it's pretty plug and play where you can mix around easily.
I've heard this a couple times, and it's really starting to hit home for me, because it's like sometimes brands, you spoke about it with like a shiny object syndrome, where it's just like, oh, let's just do that. Let's just do that, right? But it really starts with understanding your own brand. So like you said, the P&L, what do you need to be profitable? Or what do you need for, if you want to lose on your first purchase, what is that? And when you get paid back. But ultimately, it's like, know the ins and outs and the foundation of your brand before just going and copying a million different things and just like throwing spaghetti at the wall, right?
It's so key. Obviously, with the brands that I work with, that's kind of like the step one, where it's just like, understand your business, helping you understand your own business, plan things out even ahead of time. It's shocking how many people, I'm sure, if you're on this call and you don't have your August, campaign calendar scheduled out, what your sales calendar looks like, what your future offers are going to look like, you're behind the 8 ball. Like, it really starts with understanding your business, having being proactive instead of just reactive and trying to copy what's going on every single week. Be really grounded into what works for your business. But that's not to say that there's great ideas out there. So find what's working for you, and then go find what other competitors are doing in different looks and kind of remake it, but to yourself. So there's proven formats, go use that, use the resources, but it still has to be your story, not somebody else's.
I love that. So that's the brand, figuring things out from the top down. Now the agency world. If you were talking to an agency founder out there, what are the 3 things that you'd recommend to them?
Yeah, so agency world's a crazy one. First 3 things is, 1, don't get shiny object syndrome. So don't try to offer too many services at once. Get really, 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 really good at certain core offerings, and be very tight on your ICP. So really identify who you're getting the best results for, and then just try to serve that same customer relentlessly. That's clearly where your strengths are. So whether you're very focused on creative, very focused on technical media buying at different size levels, if you're very technical focused media buyer, you're probably better suited for brands that are spending a ton of money, where those little intricacies matter. If you're more of a creative or storyteller, you're probably better at helping brands that really struggle with that. So figuring out where you fit. As an agency owner, the toughest thing is hiring. Well, actually, the previous step is, the toughest thing is getting what's in your brain onto trainings and systems. Once you do that, and if you've done a good job, then hiring is easy. If you find someone that's pretty talented and able to follow your systems and guide them. So to bottle up agency in a nutshell is just like, identify who you're really getting good results for. Keep trying to serve them exclusively and not keep branching out. Try to really document, share, build out systems that kind of, especially with AI nowadays, brain dump as much as you can in there. And then now, really take a lot of time to not only find great talent, but once you bring them into your ecosystem, train them, continue to grow together, keep refining your ideas as you grow, and then, results should follow.
It's crazy. Yeah, honestly, just like documentation is so, everyone knows they have to do it, but it's so challenging for some reason.
I hate it. what's also interesting, here's a hot take I have a lot from agency side, is like SOPs are useless. So you actually need to build out workflows that require people to follow things in a certain way. That's what I found the most success with is, again, in the theme of simplification, nobody's going in there and reading every single SOP. If you build out a workflow that's just like, here's generally how it's done, here's the schedule that we typically do it at, here's the recommended steps that we do, and you put that into like actionable checklist items that they have to go and cross off, that's more valuable than like just expecting people to memorize SOPs. I mean, that's thankfully what AI is for. So if you ever have a question on how to do something, go and search it. But as humans, what we need to really be good at is just like using our time effectively, knowing what the general process is, what's the right order, and a simple way like here's something applicable for agencies and brand owners is, like I even said, before the start of the month, what's your campaign calendar for the following month? What are the main themes that worked the last month? How can we start incorporating a sales pop that we have during a certain period? How do we revolve everything around this? How do we take the learnings that worked well on paid and apply it to email, like vice versa? So it's taking the time to like really have a clear monthly schedule of planning, reviewing your data, now implementation, execution, having a really good clean flow, I think is more valuable than SOPs. So finding what works and having a good system that you could follow.
Oh man, that's incredible. That's a hot take because I'm mainly curious about the definition, right? Like that's a really helpful example. Let's say that I'm a brand or an agency and I'm like, holy shit, what the hell? I look at what I've called an SOP. How do I know if I have an SOP or if I have a workflow in what I've developed?
If it's in a task management system, pretty much, it's like if you're able to manage that if I think I described it this way when I built out my systems. I think I told this to my past team as well. If you did nothing but what is assigned to you on this, nothing else, not a single message that the client sent to you, not a single thing that comes up, the inevitable emergencies, would the business still survive? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, then you have a good working system where it's going to continue to at least get you the fundamentals. It's always making sure the high impact things are done. So that's one of the things that I've always done is make sure these non-negotiables get handled. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to follow the SOP perfectly, but as long as you're getting it job done, the business is going to be a good place. And then obviously try to work in, request other things that come up or be more reactive to changes. But if you could dial a system that does that, you've won in any business.
100%. Man, I feel like both of us have this thing where our minds move at 1,000 miles an hour, and then it's reflected in the speed that we talk, the organized manner of speech, and how that comes up. So something I'm curious about is there must be something in your life that you're trying to solve right now that has you freaking banging your head against the wall. Like, holy crap, I gotta solve this.
There's always a bunch of problems. I think for me, it's getting used to now kind of like speed. So speed, with I was very intentional when I started my own venture now, to go actually really slow, to build out strong fundamentals, strong foundations, strong systems. But what happens, for brands and agencies is as your business grows or the speed expectations are bigger, now speed is actually what makes it difficult. It's not that the tasks are tougher, it's just that holy crap, you're expected to now do 4 or 5 times more things than you had to do, a year ago where your business was. Trying to keep up with everything and still have time to think strategically and clear is the biggest challenge. So finding ways, again, to just say no more often, protect time. Ideally, you want to spend like 20% of your week being able to think on what are things that could have made my week much easier. So a simple thing that I do now is like I don't work on anything on the business or in the business on Fridays. So the way I do it is I have a full day that's just dedicated to, I'm not doing client work, I'm not taking calls, I'm not doing like any tactical stuff. It's just what can I do to think about my business or things that I should change, reflect like we're doing right now on what we've done. I think every business owner will benefit from it. It's tough to carve that out, but once you do, it's always the best time that you could ever spend. And I think, when I have conversations with founders, even outside of our industry, that's always the challenge. It's like, I just don't have time to think. I don't have time to think. So I think I'm going to encourage everyone to try to find times to carve out space to think, book a meeting with yourself, 4 hours minimum. That's also something that I've learned is 2 hours is not enough of focus for really big things. You need 4+ hour blocks to just really think through what are your challenges, write it down, think it through, ask ChatGPT, ask mentors, find who can help you out, and you'll be shocked at how much further you get along. So just it's a very simple tactic, but it's not easy to execute and create that time.
100%. The meetings can just pile up. it's easy to say yes to all those different things. So the no is powerful. So you've carved out this time and reflected and have identified the areas that you can unlock speed. I'm wondering if you can share an example of like what an idea is to unlock speed.
An idea to unlock speed. Sorry, are you able to bring it back? Is it like what I've done to try to make these happen, or how I'm spending that time?
So it's mainly like we've taken the step of carving out, hey, we need to
Yeah.
self-reflect on the week because there's things that we could have improved. And then probably what's happening is like you're coming up with a bunch of ideas of like, this is how I can unlock the speed that I'm desiring. So it's like, what is one of those ideas you might come up with that allows you to unlock that speed?
Yeah, what I do is I have to make sure when I'm spending that time, it's what are things that I'm going to work on the business that are going to make it better. So recently it's been delegation. So realizing like, how do I start documenting and training my team on creating, I use ClickUp as my project management tool. How can I create recurring tasks on things that are always happening that, it's stuff that I have to do. It has to get done, but you don't have to necessarily be the person that does it. I think that's something that most founders struggle with is delegation. It's not fun. It's not fun to do. It's not natural for me either. I definitely learned that as your business grows, you have no freaking choice. You have no freaking choice. It's either stay small and keep trying to do everything to yourself up to a ceiling, or start learning how to delegate, trust other people, speak clearly, and really take the time to even fine tune. So a lot of people will think delegation is, hey, XYZ person, go do XYZ. It's like, no, you need to tell them this is when it's due. This is how long it should take you. This is an example of what it works, and then provide them feedback back and forth. Those take time, but it's going to be what actually helps your business grow. If you can't get out of the weeds, you are never going to grow.
Yeah, it's one of the things you mentioned in there is like how important communication even is. So it's like just the communication side of things of being able to, well, like the whole conversation has been articulating our own opinions, but then like downloading that onto somebody else and having it be malleable along the way is a big challenge that people struggle with,
That's a massive struggle. So again, it's like that's where I say like you need these big long blocks to do, because if you try to get this done in an hour or two, you're just going to frustrate the other party, where it's just like, oh my God, you're just like asking more stuff. And it's just like, this isn't clear, or you're going to get frustrated. It's like, why the hell, just do the task. Stop asking me questions. The common thing is like, it's faster for me to do it myself. The idea is actually, it should take longer for someone else to do it the first time. But once you've given them feedback the second time, now you're at parity. Now the third time it's on them and they're doing it for you, and now you're completely removed. So typically it takes a few iterations. And I think for founders, I think it might be helpful to know that that's normal. It's supposed to take longer the first time if you do it right. If you're setting up a system that's repeatable and has training, it's supposed to take longer than doing it once. But now if you do that task every week and you bring it out, okay, 2 weeks out of 52, it was slower to do. Now the 50 other weeks, it benefits you. So take the time, do it. It's not fun, but you have to do it if you want to grow.
Transparently, like I struggle with delegation quite a bit, right? So I think what I'm curious to get your opinion on is let me know if you agree, but you do want your best people figuring out the 0 to 1, like get it off the ground and like get it to a good state. But the hard part is knowing when it's like actually that good state and you can hand it off. So what I'm curious from you is like, number one, do you agree on like the 0 to 1 state? And then number two, when, and if you have a framework, does it make sense to hand it off?
Yeah, I think what you said is completely is exactly what I recommend. When I talk to agency owners planning hiring and other stuff, I'm like, the worst thing you could do is get a junior employee to build your systems for you. That will never happen. That will never happen. So don't do that. If you want someone else to build out the systems for you, that doesn't work in theory. So most people are just like, hire a COO in the agency world. They'll figure it out. It's like, no, they don't have context into your business and all the specifics. So you need to have, ideally, the person that's the most experienced and already doing that exact thing, build the systems themselves. So you need to kind of empower your own senior team leadership to create systems and find ways to download their brain into that. So that's what I'm going to recommend. What was the second part of the question?
When does it make sense to actually hand it off?
Once you've been able to boil it down into kind of like a workflow task. So, I just went through the process of how I can delegate all of my call doc preps. It's like, well, here's a loom of me taking the actions. Here's what I like. Here's what I don't like. Send it off to someone, provide the feedback with them. okay, here's what I would do differently. Here's what I like. Good job here. Do this differently. They send it back and it's good. Once you've been able to prove that it's been done, well, then you're clear to hand it off. That's the gap that people don't do is they just dump it on someone's plate. It comes back. It didn't work. Get frustrated. Go back the same way. You were halfway there. You just had to provide a little bit more feedback, a little more massaging, maneuvering, and then you're good.
This is so funny. That's super helpful, honestly. Like I feel like I gotta. It's stuff that I intellectually know but will forget, and it's like
Yeah.
okay, it's good to hear the reminder from somebody else. So thanks,
That's what
man.
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying was fundamentals. I mean, something that sparked where if we want to bring this back to creative strategy, which I know a lot of people really love, is this was something that I even learned using that same kind of theory that's totally non-related, which is like iterations. So people don't iterate. People don't iterate. So I'll tell you a story of something that I did recently where I had a new client come in. They had no winning video ads. First thing I did was like, I'm paying out of my own fee UGC creators because we need to get something good, right? Spend several $1,000s on UGC creators. All right, this comes back. It's amazing. It's going to hit. Put in the ad account. It doesn't. What do most people do? It didn't work. I'm not going to do it again. That was a waste of money. What should you do? Iterate, right? It came close. If you go in there, it's like, okay, we're 10, 20% off CPA targets. What do? Re-edit. Go look at the numbers. Figure out what worked well, what didn't work. Oh, the hold rate on this video kind of sucked. And it didn't even get into the part where the video gets good. Oh, this one actually has a stronger hook because more people are, gravitating and clicking through to start the beginning of it. From there, I took the time to iterate. I made 5 different re-edits using the same raw footage, and guess what? Now 2 out of 3, like 2 out of the 5, new versions are the best ones in the entire account. So that speaks to an exact example, even in creative strategy, where most people are just net new. Try it once. Oh, it didn't work. Discard. You were so close. You were so close. Why would you go and spend another several $1,000s on other creators hoping it hits on the gate when you just get a re-edit done, slightly chop it up, learn your numbers, see where it went wrong, what could be improved, relaunch it, and go. So I think that's a big value in iteration. I myself am also guilty of not being an iterator. I like to just go for the swing and go and do it. It's definitely what's fun. But for me, that was one of those practical learnings that I did where it's like, wow, taking the time to go and dissect it, figure out what could be done better, go and release it, and it works. It's just like, holy shit, more people should be doing this instead of just discarding and giving up.
Oh man, that's so funny. That's so funny. But the good practical advice is always helpful for people to apply it in their worlds. And something I've noticed is like the hot takes just come out of you. The strong opinions are there. I freaking love that. I freaking love that. Because I myself also have a ton of strong opinions. And I think like that's always the place to start. Because then you can like figure out where you're wrong and like evolve over time.
Yep.
Is there anything else you've been noodling on that you've seen in the Twitter sphere or from working with clients where you're like, God, like I need to say it. This has to come out of me at this point.
That was definitely one where I was like, you saw I had to let it loose. So my big hot takes are usually, it's usually going to be that, any sort of partnership in paid marketing is really 50-50. Obviously taking the time to iterate and stop discarding things, the idea that, oh, I tried this once, so I'm not going to do it again. I hear that constantly. I just got off a client call, hear the same thing. It's like, oh yeah, we're doing it. That's great. We already tried this. Don't want to do that. I'm like, okay, well, that happens. But I think my own personal hot take is more like, this is more rooted in my foundation of like how I view, the ads landscape is most brands are overspending and they don't know that. So everyone's so fixated. I hate to say it. People are a little too fixated sometimes on creative when they might not have the systems that allow the creative to even shine in the first place. So taking a step back, going, like, I'll even share tactically what I do is like, I look at, channel specific performance for everything, even outside of paid. If you want to improve your ads, understanding what's even happening in email and SMS actually makes a huge difference. Knowing if the brand's even doing anything on Google, knowing if the brand, like, there's so many different avenues that you want to zoom out, understand the business, and kind of like identify what's working even in different channels and how it ties back is really valuable. So a lot of brands are struggling and just trying to bang their head against the wall, launching new creative, when it's like, well, if you look in the ad account, most of that ad that you think is winning is just because you accidentally forgot to put in exclusions. So it's just piling onto this. No wonder your brand isn't scaling. So, obviously it's a simple example, but I think brands don't realize how much ad spend is wasted just not going in, looking at the data, clean it up, and fine tune it. So take the step back instead of banging your head and doing the same thing. Be a little smarter, evaluate, and understand it. I think that's my hot take. It's not as creative strategy related, but it's more like the true growth strategy of what it takes to even crack things overall.
You've been so generous with your time. This has been super helpful. I have a couple final ones that are more geared toward like the lesson side of things and probably just life in general. So I
Yeah.
am curious. Imagine you were speaking to a younger version of yourself, and it's like, you know, the life you lived. There's probably some struggles in there that were a lot harder than they needed to be at the time, maybe.
hmm
And I'm wondering, like, what would you say to your younger self about either how to get through those struggles faster or just reassure them?
For me, definitely very hard-headed and think that I could figure everything out. So never really would ask for help. I realize that's one of the biggest mistakes. Networking as well is the biggest superpower that we have if you're in this community following motion and any of the creators on here. So being able to just be willing to ask for help is probably the thing that I wish I would have saved so much frustration, time, money on. So yeah, I would really recommend that.
I love that so much. I am similar. I need to find better ways for asking for help. I've gotten better as I've gotten older, for sure, but had to go through the lessons similar to you. And then the last question I have, I throw this at people, and sometimes they don't have one immediately. So if you don't, throw it back to me. I can help out. But I'm wondering, do you have a favorite quote? And if so, why is it your favorite quote?
It might not be my favorite, but I always go back to this one. And what I was saying before, actually, it ties in pretty well. So I might not have the wording right. Let's see if I get it. It's pretty much it's better to do it's better to do less, much better than it is to do a lot more poorly. So it's like do less things better rather than focusing on doing a lot and doing a shitty job. So I think that's going to be like just a lesson that kind of compiles like everything that I've said. Where if you really nail the core things that matter in your business is going to be in a better place than if you tried to launch all 10 different channels that everyone wants to hit, your app love and TikTok shops, this new influencer campaign, this new platform. Like your business is going to be worse if you go in that direction. Like really focus on what matters. So I think that's just practical advice that we ourselves need to remind ourselves constantly. Try to resist the emotional urge, the temptation of the shiny object, and just really go hard and become the best at what you're focused on. And like you said, put on the blinders and block everything else off.
Get those blinders on, baby. Oh, this has been incredible, man. I'm wondering if you have any final words that you want us to leave with our audience.
No, I really appreciate getting to speak with you. I know we've been, multiple ventures, getting to jam together, catch up, share learnings. I appreciate you having me. It's awesome to see all the other growth that the Motion team has had. And then if anybody is over here looking for advice for brands or even agency side, I'm always willing to help out. So feel free to reach out on Twitter, Joel Padron, or reach out to my email, hello@joelpadron.com. Happy to connect and share any questions that you have.
We got to bring that up real quick. Make sure people can tap in with you.
For sure.
Hey,
There we go.
the guy. There he is. Tap in. Joel Padron, 2 N's on there. Don't forget it. Don't forget
Yes.
the 2 N's on there. So make sure you're in. Oh, man, this has been incredible. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. This has been super helpful. I feel like I've learned a ton too, and I'm hoping the audience, you'll see clips of this going everywhere too. So make sure you get them out into the
Let's
world.
go.
But let's keep in touch. Let's run this back at some point, man. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Appreciate you. Take care, everybody. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Oh, man, everybody, this is incredible. There's always that quick awkward moment of like people getting out, and it's like, how do I get out? How do I get out? Evan's talking. I've gotten to the point where I'm completely used to it, and I'm like, yeah, it's all good. But that was incredible. Like, I think for me, we've had a couple conversations today that I think blend together quite nicely. Like London gave us all of the tactical pieces and executionally, how can we operate in our day-to-days? Something with Joel that was so helpful were the mental models and frameworks of how to anchor things at the highest level before you get into the weeds. Of course, there were some tactics that he had shared, but again, anchoring your P&L, knowing where your profitability marks are, building out foundational understanding of your messaging pillars, content pillars, and visual pillars are so helpful to what you have going on. And I think there's a lot of lessons in there that we can all take in our day-to-days, like making sure that you carve out some time to be able to reflect on your week. How can I be better next week in comparison to this one? Something I personally talk about, so at Motion, I oversee our sales team. And one of the things that I talk about probably more frequently than I should is just the idea of that everyone should get better every single call. Not every day, not every week, not every month, not every quarter. It's every single call. So there's just an intuition that you have of when you're on that call. It's like, damn, okay, where'd I get it? Where'd I mess up? How do I improve? And I think that being able to have that is important, but also remembering that if you carve out larger chunks of time, you can take yourself out of just the tactical layer and move to more of the strategic layer. So that's something that I really appreciated hearing from Joel. And if anybody wants to tap in with him, like I said, I gotta have a sound effect that's like tap, tap, tap in, because all I have are like the Vuvuzela and all that stuff. But everybody, this has been our show on Wednesday. I will say it a million times. We are streaming daily. You heard it first. I said daily, from Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. If you're not already, follow us at ThumbstopLive. That's where you can see all the recordings and clips posted up. We're across all socials at ThumbstopLive. And my name's Evan. I'm on the motion side. We're head of partnerships. I'm always excited to bring these people to you and always excited to talk all things creative strategy. Everybody, this one's been a blast. I'm going to see you tomorrow.